Well, I've been working here for many years, almost 3 decades now. So I have seen what the lack of organization has done in terms of lack of recognition for the work done by non-represented people, workers here, particularly faculty, particularly teaching faculty, which is what I am. And even though I felt that over the years I've been able to fight for some of the things that I needed, I saw that other faculty members weren't appreciated for what they did. There wasn't a sense of camaraderie. Each person was going through their own history and experience, and we were losing that what we could do together. And even though I had after many, many years, felt like I'd come to a place where I was fairly content with my relationship with the university, it took a long, long time for to reach that. And I didn't want other people to have to go through that. And in fact, many people under the old arrangements would never get that chance to be here as long as I have. And so I didn't want to take it for granted that just because I had managed to work out arrangements and contracts that I was happy with as an individual, I didn't want other people to have to go through that. So the union just seemed logical. It seemed ridiculous to me that we didn't have any kind of joint representation. And the ruling a few years ago that said we didn't have enough in common to unionize, I thought was a kind of a ridiculous ruling. So I can't say that I'm not as deeply involved as some people, but I've been involved along the way and happy to tell my story and my experience to help this get going. And I feel like in some ways I'm the kind of person that the union is for. I've worked here a long time. It took a long time to get, I think, the kind of proper professional recognition of the contributions that I've made to the university over almost 30 years now of contributions, many of which I think go unrecognized because as being a teaching faculty in a research institution, that's been an uphill battle at times. And there have been some real low points along the way. Some of those 20 years into my career. In fact, that may have been my low point, was 20 years into my career with very little sense of no type of formal job security after all that time. And having been very flexible, teaching for a number of different departments. That was another thing that I needed. The old system was based largely on unilateral decisions of different departments. Over the years, I've taught for 5 different programs, each one with a different set of rules, different pay salaries, different stipulations for what it meant to get proper recognition for your work. And so that was another reason I got involved, was to help get some uniform rules in terms of what people should be paid, how long they can work without a formal contract, all of those things that I had to go through. So that's why I got involved. It's hard for me to pull that out exactly because I was working. I had some supportive people. I happened to have some good departments to work with. I'll give kudos to International Studies and Environmental Studies. International Studies is my home department. That those 2 departments several years ago, just kind of ahead of the unionizing work, I think came together and started to put together a contract for me that was reflective of my experience and contributions. But again, that was almost 3 decades into working here, but I do want to give them credit. But I also saw that, well, if they can do it for me, then other people should be able to do that as well. So the difference it's made is that the kind of arrangements I now have been formalized for other people. There's uniformity across campus. So what this means is some of those arrangements that I had created unilaterally are now part of campus-wide policy which solidifies these arrangements, and so other people don't have to go through that and have longer-term contracts, for example, and institutionalized evaluation and procedures. It was so much was just being done ad hoc, and that really, I think, left people feeling really vulnerable. And so this helps unify those of us who teach half the classes here. It has given it's solidified what I tried to accomplish. That is, and I feel like I finally have the recognition, the official institutional recognition. For example, now I can take positions that normally wouldn't have been available to me, even though I think by experience qualified. So I'm undergraduate director now for international studies, for example, which is something I did years ago, but I'm not sure, unless we had had these longer term contracts and recognition that I could be recognized as core faculty, as a non-tenured career teaching faculty. I'm not sure what would have been available to me in that case. So it makes a difference in that because some of the things that had been done ad hoc in the past weren't lasting. There may have been a special arrangement made for me through the department with the College of Arts and Sciences, but there was no promise that would be there the next year. And I could go into some extremes, but there was actually a point in my career, well into my career, when I actually lost my benefits because the College of Arts and Science was arguing that, or somebody in the university administration was arguing that I was teaching full-time, but the argument was you had to be more than 0.5 FTE in a department, which seemed ridiculous to me. I was working for the university. It all came out of the same payroll office, but this was a way to try to save some money. And so they were a department could hire me at 0.49. I mean, I didn't allow that, but that's what they wanted to do. And I simply said, I won't do that. That's ridiculous. So after having had benefits for years, to suddenly say, oh, you don't qualify for benefits because you're teaching. So my flexibility for being able to teach in different departments and fulfill in for classes and to do curriculum development, all of those things, despite that, they were going to say, well, you're not really a full-time person. So I mean, that's kind of the extreme, but I really want to make sure that kind of thing never happens again. Well, we continue to work on what we're doing. I mean, I think it has helped change the atmosphere. I think we'll continue. There's always the argument from administration is always going to be budget, and I understand that. I've been an administrator. I know what it's like to work within a budget, and so it doesn't have to be contentious in a disrespectful way, but we have to continue to argue for the benefits that we have and continue to ask for recognition for the work that we do on this campus and the central role we play in education. I think sometimes we forget that we're a research institute, but we are largely an institution of education, and I think those of us who are and I'm not saying my colleagues who are here largely for research. Some of them are wonderful teachers. In fact, most of them are, and they're dedicated to education. I don't mean it in that way, but in order to teach 25,000 students the way they need to be taught, I think non-tenured teaching faculty are essential, and I think having secure careers for those people changes the atmosphere, and frankly, it used to spill over. Like students would have these good teachers, and then they'd hear that the university is not supporting them, or they don't know if they're going to be back next year, and I think that caused a lot of confusion on the part of the students, of asking the question, "But aren't we why the university exists?" And I think some of them answered that question. Well, apparently not, right? So I think continuing what we're doing is what I see in the future. And I one of the first things I argued with, even before, at the beginning of this whole process, was sabbatical for teaching faculty. And I now, as far as I know, will be the first career teaching faculty to have sabbatical starting next term as a result of all of this work. And that was something I argued for from the beginning. We expect people to stay up in their field. I mean, whether you're teaching or researching, you're still expected to stay current in your field, to evolve as an educator, to develop new classes, to have fresh looks on things. And frankly, if you think a teaching faculty's full, if their full load is 9 classes, I mean, think about that. If you're teaching, that's 3 classes a term. When are you supposed to do those things? And people do, and and they do an amazing job of it. And it's something I used to do, but after a while, with some degree of resentment, that you're putting in all of this extra work, and then you're supposed to be grateful that you just have a job. I mean, that was sort of the message to us was, well, just be happy you've got a job and you can teach in your field. So sabbatical is one of those which tells me now I'm being treated like a real faculty member. And there's so many things I've been wanting to do for years and just didn't have time. When you're scrambling, okay, in the quarter system especially, right? We're constantly moving from one class to the next. When do you have time to stop, refresh, think through things again? So I think sabbatical is so important, and I think that's one of the most important things. Longer term contracts and sabbatical, those are the 2 most important things that came out of this process. And I've want to take advantage of that, and I really do see this as sort of launching the next decade of my teaching with a new attitude, with a fresh start, and I think I will continue to improve as a teacher and be able to contribute more to the university as a whole because of this opportunity. And it makes me feel like I do finally. I mean, I've always felt like I belonged here, but that was in spite of a lot of messages I got that I wasn't quite a full-fledged citizen of the university community. And that's on a general. I say the people I've worked with, I've never felt that way about my colleagues. I've never felt that way about the departments that hired me. It was more an awareness of what many of my colleagues were going through, who were given all kinds of messages that they weren't full-fledged citizens, and that when push came to shove, they were expendable. So I don't want that. I don't want anyone to get that message.